Hello and welcome to Making a Metaverse. My name is Dan, and this is the podcast where we break down the process of making a metaverse. We can do that because we are doing it ourselves. We are building the metaverse of everything and the metaverse you dreamed about when you were growing up. As always, I'm joined by the Brian Cox of blockchain and self-proclaimed metaverse expert, Robbie Web4 Cochran.
You know I absolutely hate the way you introduce me. Yet you find a new kind of, I'm going to start coming prepared to throw some stuff back at you.
Or if for our USA listeners, Neil deGrasse Tyson of blockchain, because I think they won't get Brian Cox, will they?
All right, Jeremy Clarkson.
Okay, Richard Hammond. So, Rob, I wanted to start with talking about last month's episode because we actually had a record amount of listeners. So just get your quick thoughts. Why do you think that was?
I would say it's because the word is getting out about how, amazingly sexy your voice sounds.
Wasn't that? So okay, for everyone who doesn't know, I am Rob's basically marketing slave. So I've digged into the analytics and found out exactly why we've got lots of viewers last month.
Yeah, I was going to say you should be telling me, so go for it.
I'm calling it the Pelike spike because if you didn't listen to our last episode, it was with the genius Pelike, Damien Online chap, and actually about 30 minutes when he arrives on camera, the figures go like that. They just like spike up massively. So I'm not too sure what it was, but it could have been me or you. But I think
it's because it's like a Viking god, isn't it? Like a Nordic god. He's like Haaland of the music world, isn't he?
He's like the Haaland of the music world. Who are you of the the Cryptoverse world? Would you say? Football player wise, like maybe little Michael Owen?
Serginho,
I don't know who that is. Anyway, so actually interesting. A lot of our listeners are on YouTube, I would say. So not on Spotify. A lot of them are coming right from YouTube. So if you are listening from YouTube, I'm looking at the camera now, please like, subscribe and share. And it really helps us. We really like it when people subscribe. So please continue to do that.
Dan likes people listening to his voice.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm releasing a song actually next month, so we'll play it here live on camera. So yeah, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in last month and making it a record, viewers. Let's hope to make this one better. We have a fantastic episode coming up for you guys with a great guest, and I'm hoping they're going to really enlighten me into what they do and what their job role is and what they're doing in the metaverse. It's really exciting. Let's get going. Rob, I wanted to ask you, you've had a very busy few months. You've been all over the world promoting the metaverse and promoting Cryptoverse. Are you happy that event season is now over?
I am very happy that I can, sit in my pants all day working if I need to or want to.
Can we get a photo up of that just to see what that looks like?
I don't go around taking photos of myself, barely dressed. And I know that this is a pastime of yours, but I can't get behind it.
What have you been focusing on with Cryptoverse recently, bud?
I guess it's always like a question of what haven't we been focusing on. You try and do everything, and I think this is actually an important point. I think we have actually probably just had to kind of reflect a little bit and maybe even just decide on, which are the most important goals to hit first and foremost. So I guess we had to kind of ensure that we are working towards that initial kind of MVP by end of year. We're really working hard to try and hit that. Where new tech is involved, and we're talking a lot of new tech, we can't offer any, really any guarantees, but we're really obviously working hard towards that. So I think we just had to reflect and go, okay, what tools, what features do we need to ensure that the users that are lucky enough to get a sneak peek of this MVP are going to need to access the world and to look around and explore, and what are they going to be able to do when they first come in. So I think it's really just been focused on, those really kind of vital parts.
It sounds like you've been procrastinating to me there from that. That's why I go from that.
Do you really think so?
Yeah.
I mean, I could reel off exactly what the features are, as always.
No, it's fine, honestly.
Sure?
Yeah, some people are going to be shouting at me, go, let him reel off the features. We want to hear them.
This is the thing. We want to share some, but maybe not too much.
No, we don't want to share anything.
You don't want to share anything because the video's coming.
So yeah, that's the big thing. We've got a big Cryptoverse development update, and I don't want to blow our load too early. You can just, I don't want to be like you'll watch it. You go, oh God, I've seen it all. It won't worth watching the video. You should wait for the video, and then we can all collectively years to go.
like Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie in Wolf of Wall Street.
I mean, I've watched that scene about that. I can tell you play by play what happens.
I bet you can. Yeah.
My phone background.
All 2 seconds of it.
Rob, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to the metaverse because I would like to live. I think I'd like to live in a digital world because I feel like we're getting really old as people, and I'm just struggling more with day-to-day life. I'll tell you a story.
Physically?
Yeah, physically. I was in the shower the other day, right?
Oh,
so just for all the ladies listening.
What's all these sexual themes?
I don't know. I'm just in the mood today.
I've noticed.
So I was in the shower the other day, right? I'm taking I sneezed. No joke, I sneezed. So I put my neck out for about 3 days after sneezing in the shower. So I need to just transfer to digital lifestyles because I'm not cut out for it.
You're going to end up like, what's his name? Igor, with a hunchback. It's just because you're too tall, so you're just naturally going to start going...
Yeah, and I want to be one of those guys from Wall-E, that just sits in their chair and just like sits there and stares at the screen and just,
You love it.
But I actually take 1 shower a week, so it's fine. I'm not that much risk usually. Rob, as always, I want to start with the Metaverse. I don't take 1 shower a week. I take more than 1 shower a week. I'd like to start with the Metaverse joke of the month, okay?
Here we go.
I know you love these. I know the viewers love them because
I know they love you getting it out of the way with, so we can get to the important stuff.
Well, actually, as looking at those stats, there's a massive drop off when I start talking about these. So I get a lot of user suggestions actually. So my dad has sent me one. A couple of my friends have sent me jokes, but I'm not going to use theirs because I'm my own person. I don't copy people. I create these on the way.
Then, Brent.
On the train, I make these on the way here. So
literally, you just copy your entire persona is just Ricky Gervais.
I don't even know who that is.
Ricky Gervais times Jeremy Clarkson.
I can't believe. Can we just get a photo up on the screen, Mr. Editor, of what's his name, Richard Hammond, because Rob Cochrane looks like his twin in the future.
Dan is Richard Hammond in 20 years' time.
You said that.
Not Richard Hammond, Jeremy Clarkson.
Oh. Yeah. So let's go to the jokes of the month. Okay, so are you ready for these?
Yeah,
they're very funny. Very funny.
I'm rocking back and forwards now in anticipation.
So, Rob, last week I changed my MetaMask password because, I listened to your advice and, safety first, right? So I went ahead and changed it to beef stew, but it actually got hacked. Apparently it wasn't Stroganoff.
Oh, no.
You can't hear everyone's laughing in the studio right now. That they're cracking
Nobody's
up.
laughing. And there's so many logical fallacies with that.
Well, I like that Stroganoff. That's funny.
Like there's so many logical fallacies with the joke itself. Like, and all right, just move on.
I got another one then. Yeah, you want the second one, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, so why is Superman so against the metaverse?
Come on.
He's really scared of cryptocurrency.
As in kryptonite.
Yeah, kryptonite. Yeah.
But I feel like there needed to be more than the night in terms of the pun.
Well, I just feel like that is absolutely bummed. But
have you got a third?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I've got someone. So this is our Mark Zuckerberg sponsored post of joke of the month. We've always got one.
Always good.
Okay, so what cheese does Mark Zuckerberg will he eat in the metaverse?
Do you want to start that question?
This is that nightmare.
Start the joke.
I need some coffee, I think.
I feel like you lost the flow.
Okay. Rob, I want to do the Mark Zuckerberg sponsored joke of the month because I feel like we've always got one, okay?
Can we actually say sponsored? Because he's definitely not sponsored.
No, he's not sponsored it because, let's be honest, we hate the guy.
Hate's a very strong word. Just, I would phrase it as generally sway away from his ideologies.
And let's be clear, I don't hate him. I think he's a great guy. And if he wants to offer me a job, I would take it in an instant.
I bet you would. And the fact that he now does MMA or something like that, I bet you're scared of him.
Zuckerberg does MMA. Where have you read that?
Literally, apparently, he's now into MMA, Grab Maga and kicks the at people, on the mats. And he went to a private MMA thing, and now all of a sudden he's got this big sponsorship or this big deal with UFC. I think UFC. Anyway.
Wow, respect to Zuckerberg.
You should know this. You do research for the podcast.
I have done no research. I just spend the whole time looking for jokes.
All I can picture is, that those photos that come out where he's staring like iRobot. and imagine iRobot doing Grab Magar.
Do you know the thing is, do you know what I take from that? Like, if you think of yourself as you do as some sort of like super expert in the space that's on that same Zuckerberg journey, rise to the top, right? That's going to be you soon. You're going to be that robot. You're already quite robotic anyway. You're going to be that robot in the future, right? Where it's just staring ahead and freaking everyone out with your look.
I'm like he's more like what's the word? Cyberdyne Models 101, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like ancient kind of cybernetic organism, whereas I'm more like the T2000, the liquid metal.
You're
dude.
the T2000.
Yeah, because it's like like I'm kind of like here and Zuckerberg's there.
I'm getting more R2D2 from you.
Wally.
Little R2D2. And it makes me C3PO.
I'm Johnny 5 is alive, mate.
Yeah. So here's my Mark Zuckerberg joke of the month, okay?
Yeah.
So where does Mark Zuckerberg get his cheese?
Go on.
In the Fetaverse. So
yeah, all right. That's the best of the three, but it's still not great.
And that I have to say that was a user submitted joke, so that was not mine. And I'll hold my hands up there, but I did tell it really well, and I did it the first time.
Delivery was immaculate.
Yeah, perhaps. So well done to me as usual for three great jokes.
And it wasn't like 4 edits were required to get to that point.
Don't ruin the magic of film, Rob.
Okay, well it's a video, but yeah.
Whatever. So, Roberto Cochrane, I'm really excited because we have a top guest joining us this week. And I'm very keen to learn just more about what he does and how he got his role. And for me, this will be educational, a massively educational piece. Not for you, because you know everything, as you've already said many times. So, can I please give a warm Making a Metaverse welcome to Decentraland District Leader, James Ashton. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, everybody. Pleased to be here.
Hey, James. Thanks so much for joining us, mate. And just to kind of correct Dan very quickly, before you came on, I was just saying how knowledgeable you are about everything Metaverse and Decentraland. And actually, how I would probably say you're one of the closest things to a mentor I had coming into the Metaverse space, really. So actually, I totally bow down to James's superior knowledge. And I'm delighted that you've joined us and found space in your busy schedule. So thank you very much, bud. Much appreciated.
Thanks for that. James, can you kick us off by just telling us a little bit about, just to give us a bit of introduction to yourself, please? That'd be great.
Yeah, so I suppose, like a lot of people, I discovered like who were involved in the Metaverse and NFT space. I discovered it on a passage that started in 2017. I was very much just deep into the crypto space in the general. And then I discovered like an ICO called Decentraland, and that had a token coming out called Mana, and I just really kind of instantly identified with the vision they had. It just seemed a lot more interesting to me than a lot of the other crypto projects, to the point where I sort of dived into the community to sort of learn more about it, and quickly discovered what it was, that that this ICO was for a coin for this thing that would become a metaverse. And very soon into the project, they kind of invited people to propose projects for things that they thought should be in it in vis-a-vis districts. So so a lot of people put together proposals for districts, like ideas like Vegas City and Decentraland University and the Fashion District and the Ethereum Cyberpunk District, and different people all came together and rallied around the community to get support to create those. And so they were born out of the community. The community kind of staked mana tokens to kind of kickstart the districts, and then each district has its kind of own community. Some districts have. Most districts are still going. Some have been converted into other things. It is after all virtual land, so ideas change over time. But in my case, and I'll focus on Vegas City for this part, we turned into a model where we would sort of manage the land and create like a creative studio to kind of build out content and activations. So since then, we've been doing a lot of different projects in the metaverse for different sort of brands and different individuals and so on. So I suppose my background, encouraged me to do it was that career-wise, I'd very much been in technology, and I'd been like a product leader in different jobs, and I suppose I had a mix of tech and kind of and the creative skills, which meant that in the early days I was able to sort of get my hands wet with Decentraland. And like most Decentraland projects, they probably started off as sort of a volunteer type thing for the first sort of 2 or 3 years, and then that sort of as Decentraland grew, they turned into full-time occupations. And now in the case of Vegas City, we've got 22 people on the team.
Wow.
So in terms of Decentraland, it's a pretty big sort of a team, although relatively speaking it's probably small, and we've got a long way to grow, but yeah, that's hopefully a bit of a sort of nutshell of how we got here.
That's a great introduction, actually, James. And I've got a question for you. So you are currently the district leader in Vegas City, and from what I understand, a number of other districts as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I co-founded Vegas City Festival District and Decentraland University. So all of those 3 districts are active still, and we run all 3. Vegas City is the most mature in many ways, but the Festival District is also it's already built out, and we're indeed we have the Metaverse Festival next month from the 10th to the 13th of November, and that's working with Decentraland to make this whole big Metaverse Festival. And it's the whole thing, I think, takes place on not far off 1,000 parcels in total. So it's a big thing. It's like it will be one of the biggest events the Metaverse has seen so far, and there's a lot of different people pulling together. And so that's the Festival District, and then the University District. We're not trying to be an educational institution. We're kind of like the caretaker of the land and the conduit for people to come in and do stuff. So we have actually, I suppose, the most notable organisation we've had so far was Hong Kong University, and they put like thousands of students through a kind of, I guess, an onboarding stroke introduction to the metaverse in their School of Medicine. But then we've got companies that we're working with who want to do like educational initiatives, and they've chosen education as to be the sort of part of the metaverse that they're sort of diving into to get stuck into first.
I see.
So very different challenges between the 3 projects.
Awesome.
It is awesome. And I've got a question for you that it might be obvious to Rob, because smart guy.
Getting little digs in all the time, James.
My question would be what does a district leader do? Are you like the mayor of Vegas City kind of thing? Is that the sort of role?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that makes me laugh.
Yeah,
I suppose it's actually. It's more like, so in the case of Vegas City, my job is more like a typical CEO's job. So like a big chunk of my day is spent like working with, to like following business opportunities and doing some things like this. But but it's also, we're small enough that it's hands on. So I probably double up as like the CEO and CTO, in that I'm sort of like, I'm still involved with the daily production routine. Although the team handle most things, I sort of help with the sort of decision making and getting their projects on the track, but then they can largely the team and the project managers then run forwards with them. So it's kind of, I am still quite hands on with the metaverse, and I probably intend to keep it that way, because I think that it's analogous, I think, in terms of what it feels like as a day job for the team, is that you might think, oh, are we like a games company, or are we a crypto company? But actually it feels more like we're almost like a TV production company or a TV channel, because all the time, week in, week out, we have like drop dead deadlines. I'll be like, this event 8 p.m. Saturday night, and that's immovable. It's not like delivering software is not like that. You have that, deadlines aren't this moment in time where like people show up knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And that's what the metaverse is like. So I do feel like it's a fusion of kind of real-time production that a TV company would be grappling with, fused with like a game development, blockchain development, and also web development in the case of Decentraland, because it is very much like a web application that runs in the browser first, and things like the desktop applications and the VR are coming afterwards. So that's kind of what it feels like. And I think it's the same story with all the three districts, but just like really different clients and really different projects in each one.
What I think what blows my mind, James, especially even when I first met you, was just the wealth of knowledge that you had across different areas and fields and disciplines. So you had an amazing understanding of the unique challenges that you would have from a business perspective. You'd worked on web apps and product lines for kind of gambling companies, for financial institutes. You, in your past life, have been a musician, so you're extremely creative, and you're able to code as well. And all of these kind of things are all of these different expertise and skill sets that you've acquired throughout your lifetime all come into play when you are effectively like leading teams with different skill sets in Vegas City. And I think it's absolutely kind of fascinating to hear how you kind of communicate exactly what you are doing, whilst touching on all those different areas, but keeping it kind of really concise and succinct. I just think that that's testament to kind of obviously the wealth of knowledge and experience that you've got. One thing that I think I found really interesting, James, and I know that I'm kind of just commandeering maybe some of the questions that Dan had asked you here is, but you talked about there being almost feeling a bit like a TV studio. How do you manage to kind of balance the challenge of the deadlines for I would say events and content that you need to provide to metaverse goers with the technical product development that's required to keep pushing forwards? Do you weight different team members to one or another, or do you shift the old team's focus really quickly and feel like you're kind of getting a bit of whiplash? But how do you address that challenge?
So in short, we've got like two core teams of delivery. So we actually have an explicit events team, and then we've got what we might call the production team. And the events team do work really closely with the production team. So, for example, they might say, well, we've got a venue, we've got an event. These guys, they want to customize the venue. They want to put some NPCs, non-player characters in there. And they want a video stream, and they want some free wearables. So there's a few jobs that need doing. So the events team could pull all of that together in terms of what comprises the event, and then they can put tickets into the production team to say update venue with branding. So then they can liaise with the client and they can handle that, and they've got the deadline where they've got to deliver the event. So they can make sure they get the resources they need from the production team to do that. And they also have their own niches. So one of our event producers, for example, he's like a really font of knowledge on DCO wearables. So he can champion the submissions process for wearables. So that frees up the wearables modeler to move on to more wearables. You see what I mean? And he can. So it is dividing it up. And I do think there's two unique challenges. And I think we didn't do that to begin with. And what we found was that the production team, it was quite stressful because you would have like, drop dead deadlines, and yet they're dealing with something really complicated. And sometimes, you just can't like shoehorn something into the time that you've got.
Mm-hmm.
So, so so the events team is more sort of a, client facing than the production team, whereas the production team needs more conventional kind of software and game development and project management techniques in place. But it all comes together in the same kind of ticketing system, so everyone is on the same page and works the same way in terms of the tools we use and that type of thing.
James, that's really fascinating, and actually I think the whole concept of having events in the metaverse is super fascinating anyway. In your opinion, what makes up a really great event? Like, what does a really great event in Decentraland look like to you? What needs to be good to make it fantastic?
So in the early days, I think it was like actually just entertainment. So it could be video, it could be something, because the metaverse itself was kind of bringing people together in that social environment. But then they needed something to do, and for a long while that was kind of like a video of a band playing on a in a music gig, and And then over time, there's like features in Decentraland which you kind of have to activate to make an event, and people expected like a POAP token, which is like a proof of attendance protocol token for people who wanted to look that up, which is like a badge to show that people went there. So
like
that
a ticket
in the
stub, right?
beginning, in the beginning, a feature like that is like a novelty, and then it's one of the attractions of the event, and then it becomes a standard. So by now, for any event, there's a lot of expectations that people have when they come. They may want that. They may think that there's probably a wearable, along the line for significant events, and then some form of entertainment. But I think what's more important now is also a gamification, and I think it's the gamification in an event which is becoming the essential piece to kind of actually, give something so that it gets people excited. And also, we've kind of moved from, believing that it's about an event to an event is the start of your metaverse campaign in most cases, and it's that launch event. And we do think that, us included, have made like mistakes whereby all of the efforts and all of the focus has been on that big bang moment of the event, and then what? You're then left with an empty metaverse build with no plan going forwards, because so now it's sort of treating events as, in most cases, recommending that that's the launch of something else. So in the case, we did an event very recently for Spanish Heritage Week. There was a performer called Yo2L, who is a really well-known Cuban artist, and there was an event which was at the moment in the time where we launched it, and he performed. But then we then put the same performance on a video on demand for 2 weeks later, and you could collect different wearables each day from a collection of 10 different T-shirts. So people would, in that sense, it's a simple formula. There's no gamification, but still people were coming back and throughout the period to collect the items. But on another project we've done recently, it was for a large alcohol company, and we made for them a distillery, and the distillery was comprised of like a suite of mini games. So you had to like do different game mechanics in succession as part of one experience, and it took you about 45 minutes to go through the whole thing. And people loved it, and then that was definitely a winning formula which we learned from. And the more that you can let people experience in terms of competing against each other, or even a basic treasure hunt where you've got to search items in the space and then get a reward. It feels like things like that are a minimum these days to make something which is going to get talked about. I think another element of them, which is also a key thing, and it's easy to overlook, and that is group behavior, is that you've created this social environment, and this environment brings people together. But then if the experience itself is really saying, well, here's a one-player game and you can stand at that cabinet over there and play it, that's actually a single-player experience where you could design an experience to reward the group and to promote group behavior. So that's a focus that we're really putting in on things at the moment, because obviously also just in terms of acquisition of users, if you have designed an experience to appeal to a group, then and you make it beneficial to enter it with a group, then it stands to reason that people will bring their friends.
Yeah,
and that's what we so that's the overall. So those are a few things that we're sort of thinking about in terms of events when we're approaching them at the moment.
That's actually really interesting insight, actually, for me. Well, it sounds like the idea behind gamification, Rob, you'll know this obviously already, but it's kind of like replayability. There's a reason to come back. Like, you can do an event, but an event is like one-off, right? You're there, you watch the event, it might be a great band or whatever. But then once it's done, then, GG, game over. It sounds like gamification is giving you a reason to come back, play it again.
Yep.
The group thing is genius because it's not just you doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
The metaverse is a inherently social experience, right?
100%, yeah. And I think, I love there halfway through James's explanation, it was like, often what you'll find from the users is like, okay, now what? And then what, right? And that's what I guess the biggest question that every metaverse experience has got to answer is it's a case of like, okay, now what can I do? And then what? And if you don't have those kind of continuous sort of hooks, then it stands to reason that people are going to log off. And I guess it's one of the biggest challenges is that you want to keep people interested in having kind of continuous content that they can experience and explore. So it makes perfect sense that, like James has suggested there, that you need to think about like group dynamics and get people able to kind of engage in ways that, you know, keeps them there and that they can enjoy with other people.
Well, and I imagine the great thing about Decentraland is basically once you've done one experience or you've been to one place in Vegas City, you're like, okay, we've done that. Now you look around and go, well, what's next? Where should we go next?
Let's go to the casino.
Let's go to the
next
casinos.
thing, right? Yeah, that's where the big money players, I guess.
I actually logged on to Decentraland and researched for this episode. So I went to Vegas City. I checked it out. Is flamingos the same flamingos as in the real Vegas?
No, it's not, and it's actually the naming is different, and probably so that is inspired by a few different constructions. The naming is not quite the same, but it's actually destined to be called the neon flamingos because
right.
Obviously the only reason why we say is that there was another flamingos project in the NFT space, which isn't in Decentraland, and basically we want to make sure we're not confused with them.
Makes sense.
In reality, there's many flamingos casinos all around the world.
Yeah.
If you look, there's a bunch in the UK. You'll also probably find a seedy amusement arcade on most UK seaside towns called the Flamingo as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Everyone loves a big pink bird. I guess, you know, unless you've got maybe the power of Zuckerberg, you can't just like take the you know, one word name and expect that it is yours forever, right? You know, like flamingos is such a probably a popular you know, animal, and everyone knows how everyone likes to brand things with animals.
Yeah, Rob, you're just done a branding masterclass, right?
What can I say?
James, what do you think the biggest? I've got a couple of questions actually. What do you think the biggest challenges are for sort of Vegas City and Decentraland in general, and what are your overall objectives for what you're doing as well? What do you want to achieve? What's your nirvana, we call it?
Well, I suppose obviously, you know, user acquisition and, you know, getting it super busy and you know, trying to get it on the same kind of growth curves as things like Roblox is obviously the holy grail of what everyone's trying to achieve. You could argue that, you know, some demographics are easier. I think Roblox have a sitting audience there, that they've got an aesthetic that parents accept. So, and it's kind of like a social game. It's easy for them to get on the devices they have, and it's not, you know, I kind of see that, like, in a way, for me, Decentraland is kind of like a grown-up Roblox. Like, if I was on Roblox as a kid, there comes a point where I'm saying, hang on, actually, I want to own all my own in-game items, you know, and I think people will understand, you know, what the difference is between, say, a Decentraland and what a centralized, you know, project is. So the holy grail has to be to kind of get this sort of open, decentralized metaverses on a sort of equal standing and equal sort of future potential as the centralized ones. And I think that's really important for the internet as a whole. But then within Vegas City, I suppose it's that it's a, you know, a vibrant city space with lots of activities in, and we've differentiated the brand from gambling, so people don't think, Vegas City is the gambling center of the metaverse. It's more that it's the, you know, the sort of adult playground of the metaverse more so, and not even focused dedicated onto adult entertainment. But I think there is always going to be like this kind of like overlap with the gambling world. But one thing we have done is we've split it into 4 quarters. So casino, experience, sports, and entertainment. And, you know, entertainment quarter would be an excellent home for like a TV show to have an activation, for example. And the sports quarter, you know, we have it's been in the press a little bit. We've got a project with La Liga, the Spanish football league. So that's obviously ideal to be based in the sports quarter. So I think our sort of, you know, goal as a brand is to decouple Vegas City from the expect the Las Vegas expectation, and just more have it as like as a all the entertainment things, like space to explore in the metaverse, and that a specific brand isn't worried about the connotations of gambling or anything else. And I think that the projects like La Liga and then the Australian Open that we did earlier this year like fortify that. So that's probably like a goal to have Vegas City as a brand which is identifiable as a metaverse brand as opposed to an online gambling space. So, and then I think as a wider Decentraland, I think my own kind of like hopes for where it goes is that it's very much like technology agnostic. Although it's a kind of browser application at the moment, there is a desktop application and there is a VR version which is in alpha. And really, it is like, I see it as like a Bitcoin of the metaverse, if you see what I mean, where I do think it can be forked by different teams in future because it's totally open source. And I think that maybe that, where we are today is like a sort of Manhattan of the metaverse, where there's a very limited number of lands, but they have a lot of focus of energy and inbound investment to really, push it along. But I would love to see that open out and that same kind of architecture be like more available. And I don't think that should mean that there should be more land in Decentraland, because I think that Decentraland should stick to its kind of pledge of 90,000 parcels, and that's it. Just like Bitcoin is 21 million Bitcoins. I think that's really essential for the overall like a trust and so on of these sorts of projects. But it's not to say that there couldn't be like, just as Litecoin came along and forked Bitcoin and then became its own thing, I can see that Decentraland could become that, because they do have that architecture set up. And that for me is really interesting. It's not to say that it's like the definitive metaverse and there couldn't be like other ones, but it could be the kind of the web, the integration layer of the metaverse, the thing where other metaverses could dovetail with that because of its open nature. They could fork pieces, the bits they need to integrate with. I see it as all very decoupled and very interesting. And so, one day maybe Decentraland University, if it wants to have actual people doing like, university wants to provide that as a tool which lecturers can use, maybe they need a different user interface to, actually teach a class. Maybe the requirements of overseeing a room full of people and carrying them through an experience, they need something different, a different viewport on it. So even small parts of it could evolve, and that's what I think specifically interesting. And I think that is one of Decentraland's really strong points. But I think also that explains why, for example, a metaverses can be made on different game engines, and they can have really, really super advanced rendering layers and achieve like amazing things visually. And I think Decentraland will always be a step behind the cutting edge of, say, a game engine tech, because they're trying to do something different. And I think this is a really key thing for the metaverse to help people understand that it's not a one size fits all, that there's going to be metaverse experiences which are best in one type of platform and others that are best in the other. And Decentraland might prove to be better for, say, education, or better for, say, a casino application, or easier to like put on a sporting event. But it might not be the best metaverse to, say, have a real-time game of soccer where people can just start kicking a ball around and have a five-a-side game. That might always just be one step behind other platforms. So I do think that for me, having Decentraland as like one of the metaverse hubs by which other players can dovetail with it, like, feels where I hope it goes to. And I think it, from my sort of tech background, the reason why I'm excited about it is because I see it as open and expansive like that.
And I'll just kind of, I love the way that James has presented all that information, because I think one of the key questions that I get from lots of people, James, is, obviously we're working on Cryptoverse. We get this question of, aren't Decentraland a competitor? And I always say, I really kind of am loath to describe Decentraland as a competitor. It's like, for me, you know, it was a massive part of my educational process, being, you know, getting the pleasure of working and speaking with you and, you know, Sam at the Toonpunk, amongst others, you know, really kind of knowledgeable people. So from my perspective, and knowing, you know, essentially where Decentraland's position is like you say, in many cases, for me, I love the analogy you use where it's like the Bitcoin of the metaverse, right? Just because Bitcoin is, you know, like it was there first. It's completely open, and it's got so many kind of opportunities for, you know, kind of everybody to kind of get involved with. It doesn't mean to say we don't need, or, you know, people don't need experiences that Ethereum brings, for example, right? So I love the kind of analogy you use there. So when I always talk about Decentraland, I say absolutely not, because I think as somebody who is actively involved in now developing Cryptoverse and a Metaverse, I look at Decentraland and I'm like, what Decentraland have achieved from a technical perspective and what they continue to kind of propel forwards towards is this, you know, kind of, you know, low barrier to entry opportunity for users to come into the metaverse, and it all being open and allowing different developers to kind of plug into, is a really kind of like it's a kind of position and a goal that Decentraland have achieved and are continuing to kind of build towards. And that's completely different to say what we're kind of looking to achieve from Cryptoverse. And you used a really kind of you know, I would say useful description there in terms of, you know, Decentraland may not be the choice that you would use to have like a, you know, an immersive five-a-side game, because it's not focused on maybe that kind of, you know, those really high quality graphical layers, for example. But at the same time, anybody can access Decentraland through any browser or any phone anywhere in the world. Whereas, you know, Cryptoverse, because of its rendering requirements, just sadly cannot, you know, would never be able to do that. So I think once you have an explanation as to what Decentraland is from somebody like James, I think that really kind of just answers my questions when people ask, are Decentraland a competitor? The answer is absolutely not. They are far more mature at this stage anyway, and the kind of position in the metaverse space is far different. I love it.
It was actually really insightful for me. Like, I felt like I could have taken like 1,000 notes during that point. obviously, on our own journey, we've obviously got some developing to do, we're working on it, etc. But I just felt like that was just so much insight there into what you're doing, and we can certainly learn from how you guys are doing things for sure.
Dan's stealing the events thing that you told him.
Oh, that was fantastic. That was fantastic.
He's been bugging,
yeah.
Obviously, getting bugging all the time, James. You know, got a brand or somebody wants to do an activation or an event, and I'm like, you know, I've product, tech, features, you know, like infrastructure first, guys. And
I've got the blueprint now.
So
I've got the blueprint.
Dan, I'm sure, was writing down events team, like underlining it.
Thanks for that, James. We're actually not on a podcast. This is just a call for us to capture some really good information from you. James, I want to sort of finish off now with a couple of quick fire questions just to get to know you. A lot of these podcasts, you know, they ask you a couple of questions and they see you off, but actually, I want to get to know who you are, you know, better than anyone that you know. You know, that's the sort of levels we want to go to here. Is that right, Rob?
I mean, I'd love to learn more about James. It's just I have to listen to you ask the questions. That's the problem.
Okay, well, are you ready for these quick fire questions? I've trademarked quick fire questions.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah,
Let's start the metaphorical clock. So, James, if you were to write a book, what would it be about?
I actually think if I was going to write a book, probably the only thing at this point, without, you know, going traveling to kind of, you know, come up with some concepts and so on, would probably just be some form of like, not biography, but a story where I just tell my story. Because I think, like everybody, we've all lived an interesting life, and whatever your life has been, you know, whether it's the human relationships within it, whether it's the actual big ticket experiences you've done, I think that's the thing that would be most rewarding in terms of looking back over life and seeing that. I feel like a lot of people, I'm, you know, in my late 40s, so I've been through a few phases, and you could put those phases, you know, down as like, you know, I was very much into partying when I was young. I went for a phase of, I've always been a musician, so I went for a phase of being in an active band, and it was quite a hair-raising experience. Yeah, so went through like a band phase, and then I kind of got married soon after that ended, and then I went on an adventure, with my wife. Like we were both living and working in London, and we both quit our jobs and then went traveling, and we were traveling for 9 months. And so I'd love to have the time to look back over all those sorts of periods, and maybe use events and things in some form. Maybe a novel with a make-believe character, but I portray some of the people I've met along the way.
I'd read it.
I would read it too. It's and as a professional writer, which I am, and that is a fact.
I actually hate the fact that you can genuinely say that, and you're actually not technically wrong, are you?
Yes, I am paid to write on a daily basis because my prose is so beautiful, is what people would say. And do you know what I would say as a professional writer, as I just mentioned, is that one of the key pieces of advice you can get is to write about what you know, right? So that's essentially what you're doing there. So I'm sure it'll be a fantastic book, and we look forward to seeing it coming out. So my second question for you is, what is your preferred first date situation? I'm not asking you out. I'm just wondering.
Well, it's a very, very, very long time. So I suppose a drink and a chat in a pub.
Yeah.
And you can quickly get to the bottom of any situation with that.
All the answers are in the bottom of a whiskey bottle.
Okay, so then, do you wake up long before work or right before you start?
Well, I'm a late worker, so I'm a like stay in bed as long as possible before I get on with the day person. So I'm normally eating my breakfast at my desk. So that says it all, really.
I mean, you're in tech, game, metaverse. I think that's normal. Yeah,
I think so. And I guess the last one for you is Halloween focused, because I guess this will be going out around Halloween time. What is your favourite scary movie?
My favourite scary movie would have to be The Shining.
The Shining,
classic.
A genuine scary one.
Yeah.
I've watched. I watched a lot of horror movies in my time, and I suppose that if I wasn't going to go for something serious like the Shining, then I'd go for something terrible like a Chopping Mall.
I don't know what that is. Do you?
Chopping Mall.
I feel
you can Google Chopping Mall for some pure 1980s horror quality.
Maybe we have to watch that this Halloween.
Not together, I'm busy, mate. What I would say is my favourite scary movie is Hereditary. Has anyone seen it? It's fantastic.
It's a new one, that, is it not?
Yeah, it's a couple of years ago, but it's absolutely, I had to sort of sleep with the light on that night.
I bet you did. You're always a little bit scared of things, aren't you?
Yeah, no, so I actually don't like horror films because they, as I say, they make me shit my pants. No. They don't, of course. James, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate your time, and honestly, there's been a lot of insight into Decentraland and Metaverse in general. I think
Vegas City and Festival Land and Decentraland University. We've learned a lot.
We could talk to you for hours, I'm sure, but I know you've probably got a busy day. So thank you so much for coming on this show, and I look forward to speaking to you more in the future and stealing more of your ideas.
Thanks, James.
It's been a pleasure. Okay, cheers, both.
Thanks, mate. Take it easy. And now, Rob, I want to end the episode with a little competition, a little chance for our lovely listeners to win some Cryptoverse land, so your own slice of the metaverse that you will own and you can build on when the Cryptoverse launches when, Rob? Tell us now, when's it launch?
You already made the joke off air about it launching in 2029 because you thought that'd be funny.
I know, I didn't say it.
It was funny, but no.
I didn't say it, did
you
I?
You did say that.
No, but I didn't say it now, so we're on air now.
It depends what you're talking about launching, right? There's phases. You roll a metaverse out in phases. You can't just be like, oh, it's there.
Oh, classic Rob, making it all about him. We're going to competition. He starts talking about the rollout of the metaverse. Okay, so if you want to win some metaverse, Cryptoverse land, right, all you need to do is a couple of things. You need to give me your email address, give me your phone. No, I'm joking. All these things. No, we need an email. You need to sign up to our metaverse mailing list. You need to like and share this podcast. You need to send Robbie several emails a day just asking him for stuff.
Do not.
That is-
So, is this like a Gleam, or is that how you're doing it? Because how else are you going to know if you've got people have given the email address and if they've liked and shared?
So literal, isn't he? Look, don't worry about that. The link's going to be in the descriptions. Click the link. It'll have all the instructions there. Please give us your email address so we can email you loads. No, we won't. Please enter the competition because we want you to win some Metaverse land. We want you to win some Cryptoverse land. We want you to come join us and have a laugh with us, eh? Rob, what do you think? Do you want to win some of that?
Yeah, I want to win some of that, yeah.
Well, just give me your email address, please.
Yeah, you're not having my email address.
So that's all we've got time for. Thanks so much to James Ashton from Decentraland, Vegas City District Leader. What a great guy, great insight. I really enjoyed that. Smartest guy I've ever met on this show, other than other than Pelek and him. So that says a lot, I think, about you.
What are you trying to do there? Just by through process of elimination, just make it clear who you think is not intelligent.
Yeah, I can't slag them off because they're like really gracious of their time. So it's just all about you. Yeah. Thanks, Rob, for your insight. You're very smart. And everyone have a great month. And we'll see you next month on Making a Metaverse.